What Drives You is brought to you by Ziglar, your premier source for equipping life and leadership coaches. Visit Ziglar.com and let them inspire your true coaching performance.
Yeah.
And folks, after the show, Erin actually gave me a coupon code. So we're inserting it here at the beginning so you'll know. If you do decide to get your own human design, go to humandesignblueprint.com and use the code, the word DRIVE, and you'll get 10% off. Welcome to What Drives You. I'm your host, Kevin Miller, and thanks for joining me as I talk with today's most influential change makers to uncover what truly drives them and extract the big takeaways from their insights so you can integrate that wisdom and leverage the power of your unique inner drive and wake every day to your authentic, driven, and inspired life. In this episode, we kick off a series on human design. I first experienced, this style of a profile with just all the personality profiles. I grew up with Meyer, Briggs, and the disc profile, and recently the Enneagram, and so appreciate them in regards to having insight on my personality, my predispositions, my propensities. I've always struggled, and I'll tell you this, Erin, while you're sitting there, always struggled with the fact that they're self-reporting. And it's almost hard to, can I really get myself out of the way and answer this thing authentically? Now then, I am introduced to the human design concept, and it simply goes off your birth date, your birth time, and your city of birth. I read a review that actually said, this is like astrology on steroids. Okay, so I was raised in the Bible Belt. I grew up in church. Astrology, of course, was blasphemy. But here's the deal. And this is where I want to start for everybody who may have come from that camp or be in that right now. I had a human design blueprint done, and the profile I got back addressed issues about me that nothing else has ever touched, period. So regardless of my, I don't even know if I'd say skepticism, my ignorance, whatever, I just couldn't deny it. So with me today is Erin Claire Jones. Erin is an expert in human design, one of the most well-known leaders in the space. Actually, I've talked with people since we talked to Erin. They said, oh my gosh, she is it. So Erin looks at how human design reveals our energetic blueprint and specifically how it looks at how people are designed to cultivate relationships, how they parent, make decisions, build businesses, market, communicate, work with teams, and so much more. Erin's intent is to give people permission and tools to be themselves as individuals in family, in business, and in relationships. And as we're talking about all this stuff, if you want to go do it, go to humandesignblueprint.com. That's where I went. I took a free test. It gave me back enough that I said, I'm in, and I bought the full thing. And then Erin and I had a meeting a little while ago just to kind of check in. And here we are. And Erin, thanks for being here.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I am too. I spent yesterday again going through my human design blueprint, and there were things that it addressed. I'm going to call it divine because it's things that some of it I've just become being aware of, even through therapy and whatnot. And here this comes out. I got a lot of questions. So
I can answer that.
Okay. Well, and I'm going to start off first with just asking you how you got involved in this, because I realize I don't always ask this, at the start of every show, how somebody got into it, but I realized I did not know your story, and either I was just negligent in finding that out, or it's because we were supposed to talk about it now. So tell me.
Of course. I mean, I don't think I could have ever anticipated that I would be building a career around human design. So it's a great question. I discovered human design in 2015. I had been working for a number of different startups at the time in New York City. I was really interested in entrepreneurship and social impact in entrepreneurship. And I basically had this very serendipitous meeting where I sat next to a stranger at a friend's gathering, and he asked to read my human design chart. I had never heard of human design, nor had anyone that I knew, but I think similar to you, I was like, okay, I want to learn. Just like, tell me what you see, and I was skeptical, but open. And he proceeded to give me the most accurate, insightful, resonant reading I had ever received. And I felt so confronted by it because he addressed things that I had always felt so deeply, but never given myself permission to step into. And here was this like total stranger being like, here, this is you. And I'm like, that is me. And he actually ended the conversation by saying, Erin, I think you're meant to do this. And human design is not predictive. It's not a system telling you what you're going to do, but he just observed so much potential in my design, but also in kind of our chemistry working together. So he ended up being my first teacher. And I ended up studying with him and building a business before going off on my own. And I think one piece I just want to add there is, I got into human design long before it was well known or cool or popular. And it's amazing that it's become what it is, but it was not that then. And I think what really drew me to it more than anything else was that it felt like it bridged the mystical and the practical. Mm-hmm. It obviously is so mystical in that it is based on our birth time, date, and place, but it is so practical in that it gives us so many actionable tools to actually work with the knowledge it gives us. So having explored many modalities, I had never met a system like this. And I was pretty immediately blown away by how it could be useful on an individual level, partnership level, and team level.
And it's the mystical part of it that is, and I'm not even sure how much I want. We're going to talk about it a little bit here.
Wow, we're going to get into too much.
I don't know if I want to get, because I'm also looking over here and go, you know what? On some things, I don't understand how it works, but holy smokes. Yeah. And again, the profile that I got and some of the stuff that it pulled out was some of the most, I want to say confirming, things I've ever read, and not a confirming I am what I am kind of aspect, but oh my gosh, that makes sense. I am that way. And I was telling somebody yesterday, Erin, I said, I was looking at this thing and I thought, okay, it just pointed that out. I just thought that was ADHD, and they pointed that out. And I thought it's because I just kind of being a jerk. And I pointed and it's saying, no, this is you. Now I appreciate, my brother, we were talking about some concepts around stuff like this. And he says, it's not that you want to be careful that it doesn't own you. So I'm not looking at it and going, yeah, that owns me. But oh my gosh, that showcases that, again, I'm feeling grace, I guess.
Yeah.
Grace that, that's a natural aspect of me. Now I may work to manage it, but tell me about that. Cause there's that quandary we have time. If I am what I am, or, gosh, there's something about me, it's bad, and we're trying to balance and manage that.
Well, I also just want to say that I love what you're sharing, because I think the magic of human design, and I think why it resonates with, woo-woo people and skeptics alike, is that it often just gives us language for things we've always felt. And so we read it and it just feels like so familiar. And it's so specific. We're like, how in the world would anyone know that? Yeah. And so there's something really amazing about that. I think that in terms of the challenges, I think human design isn't good or bad. Like, it doesn't tell us things that like you have a bad design or a good design. It just reveals the potential that's there and how to work with who we are in a way that will be productive, in a way that will make us work more effectively and communicate more effectively and create more opportunities for ourselves. And so I think when we know our design, we honestly just have like a little productivity hack in our back pocket in terms of like, oh, now I know how to navigate life in a way that actually works for me. Yeah. And I think so often people are trying to do everything but that, and I think human design just reminds them, like, what is the way that's going to work for you and how do you actually navigate those challenges? But like your brother said, it's not meant to own us. It is just an amazing tool that we can use whenever we like, especially I think if we're feeling out of flow.
All right. Well, let me for a second, just to get it out of the way, let's step into the mystical and try to make sure that I want that to not be a stumbling block. Cause I'm obviously, sometimes I come on with stuff and I say, you know what, we're just exploring this. It's not that I'm advocating it. I'm having a hard time not advocating this because of what I'm getting out of it myself. And I don't want to be derailed by the mystical aspect. I mean, the idea that, even just, it's so hard to sit here and think, okay, this stuff came out of where I was born, the place I was born, the date and the actual time. And that feels like so happenstance. I've had 7 biological kids. And if I go back and think about the realities around some of the nuances there. And even my wife, she had one kid, no lie. She was talking about, because he just had his birthday on the 29th of October. And she told him that she was literally like making a bigger effort because she did not want him to be born on Halloween, coming from our, religious background. And I'm thinking, okay, so he's born over here. How much did she have to do with it? And yet that's going to be part of his human design blueprint. Okay. That stuff, I'll admit, hard for me to accept. And yet over here, of course, what it spit out, I'm blown away by, and that's why we're sitting here. So give me what you want on that. Cause I'm probably the 1 millionth skeptical, or not, it's not even skeptical, but just going, oh my gosh, that's a lot to swallow.
I think what I would say is that it is wild that we could ever know this much information about ourselves based on our time, date, and place of birth.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm really not here to say that human design is a science. Some people will say it's a science and like all these things happen. And I get that, but I think what matters to me more than anything is whether it's useful. And so there is a really cosmic story of what happened, and that when we're born, there's a certain configuration of the planets, and that kind of determines our blueprint and how we are here to operate at our best. But I just think it's worth acknowledging that like, it's wild, like that we could ever get this much specific information. And so I think that for those listening, especially those that are more skeptical, I think I would look at it as a system of a tool and ask yourself, like, does this feel useful and supportive? Because I think hearing you talk, you're reading it and you're like, I don't need for it to be useful. I don't need to believe this, but like, it actually really is. And my experience is like, that is just the experience like across the board with everyone I work with. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, I can tell you this story if you like, and I don't even know if it helps.
I'm going to let people, if people want to, because I went and read it. So if you want to go learn how this came to be, you can go do that. I will give it a couple analogies. I mean, I appreciate when I can't get past a sickness, antibiotics. I don't know how they work. I don't know if they're really best for me overall. Actually, I believe they're not. They're for an acute issue, and if you can't get past them, thank goodness. But overall, not that great. None of us know where it originated but we did it. It's useful. Yeah. So if I put it in that category and go, dude, I don't understand this stuff. I mean, from a biblical standpoint, I have a Bible. I've used it a lot, and as I get older, which I should say maybe more. I was going to say mature and wise, maybe more open-minded, maybe who knows what. I look at it and go, man, there's so much I just don't understand, which is faith. Totally. And I even look at that and go, oh, maybe God ordained this. I don't know. I can go with that as well. So if you want to spend time over there, knock yourself out. I would challenge people to consider this and go to Human Design Blueprint. I'm not making any money off this. It's a free thing. Go there, take it. And if it resonates at all, you can pay for an upgrade. I did. And that was long before. Matter of fact, can I give the quick backstory, Erin? Of course. This show's about you, but for context. So I am in Dallas, Texas. I don't know how many months ago, 4 months ago or something like that. And I'm out. I was outside at dinner with some people, and I was talking with Renee Marino. So folks, listen to the show. She's been on the show a lot. She co-hosts some. Renee's has been a Broadway actress. Been in movies, Clint Eastwood's Jersey Boys movie. And today she's a communication expert. And so we just get into talking about personality profiles or something. She goes, oh, it's kind of like that. What's your human design? Like, no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. And so she tells me, oh, it's off of, your birth date and your time. And I'm, come on, Renee, give me a break. But I respect her. And she's like, just give it a shot. Give it a shot. And I did. And again, here we are today. And so mystical and practical, I appreciate that. The things that it came out with, I'm just not going to go into, because we'd spend the whole time talking about how it comes out with that. I'm just not. What it came out with was dramatic. And since then, my research on people who have used this, they're people I respect. I just got a lot of them. Again, I wouldn't deny that. And you've got a lot of celebrities, on your, like I saw on Instagram, you got, Jennifer Aniston and Simone Biles and Taylor Swift and Beyonce and Glennon Doyle, Jennifer Lopez. And I saw Brene Brown, and I thought, well, you got me there, because Brene's Brene, so she's into this stuff. It's significant. So I find it useful. I would I would invite anybody to go check it out. Because again, it got into some things that I feel, tell me that when people do this, because I don't know if I want to ask you to compare it to the other, or if you even want it compared to personality profiles.
I think it's actually a really helpful question, because I think you touched on it really beautifully earlier, that I think that there are a lot of amazing systems out there like Enneagram or Myers-Briggs or DISC or StrengthsFinder, where you answer questions. I mean, mostly not for Enneagram, but you answer questions. And those questions the answers can be really, specific to why you're answering them. Like whether it's for a certain job, where you are in life. And like, I don't know about you, but my Myers-Briggs has changed multiple times, and I think the magic of human design is that, and you can literally see it in the chart, is that it not only reveals the things that we are conscious of, but it also reveals all this like energetic, unconscious stuff underneath the surface. And so it just gives us this information that like we just haven't had access to before. And I think that has been like in my design specifically, understanding what's unconscious has been so useful. Being like, oh, this is why things have been hard. And it's not actually what I would have ever guessed about myself. And so I think that's kind of the magic. And also to your point earlier, I work with so many teams that I can't tell you how much they love, like just having to give the birth information. They're like, this is just so much simpler.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And also like another piece I'll say is that, we have like a design that speaks to our greatest potential, but we might not be living it because maybe we're like, we think we should be this, then we think we should be this based on where we grew up and who we were around. And so I think human design kind of reveals the potential that's there, which we often have not been living. And so if I just answered a questionnaire, I probably would have guessed that I was a different type than I actually am. Makes sense?
Yes, totally. Okay, so I want to get into some of the not the, what do you call them? Not the labels, but the types. I do want to lead though. I mean, one of the things, just for an example for folks, one of the things that came out, I have struggled my entire life with being flaky. Let's call it flaky. Okay. And, jumping from one thing to the next and getting tired of this. And I finally made peace with seasons and cycles. And maybe I'm into this for a while and then I'm just not. And in I'll call it my older age, I've just been like, I don't have to justify it. It just is. But I haven't necessarily understood it. I've just made some peace with it. And now here I take, again, of all the stuff that I've taken, which God knows how many times I've taken different profiles and taken them multiple times, like you've talked about. I've taken the disc profile a million times and Enneagram and whatever. And yet this one is saying, no, that's kind of how I'm wired. And so to look, to be excited about something, get into it, and then I'm ready to move on. And to look at that, it gave me, again, some grace for myself, but also some information that now I feel like I want to share it with people and go, again, not to justify myself, but go, gosh, this is a propensity of mine. So if we take off on this, chances are I'm going to kind of lose my mojo on that. And we need to prepare for that. I like to build the framework, start with a blank piece of paper, build a framework, and then I'm kind of done. Now, I have a business now that I don't expect necessarily that I'm going to be gone as a podcaster, but it's interesting, Erin, because it's shown me, why did I start? And we started with, it was the Ziegler Show, and we're doing that. And then it's just, I think it kind of ran its course, and we changed it to the Self-Helpful Show, and I put in more formats, and we decided to do this series, like we do now of 4 things. And we've done that for 2 years and it's done great. And yet I felt kind of like it's run its course, and and now as of today, literally, today as of this recording, we've changed it. It's what drives you. And man, I'm so on fire, and we're going to add in some new format stuff. And now after having taken this human design blueprint, I'm looking and going, okay, we'll give it a couple years. And I'm probably going to be ready to make a move, and that's okay. So let's just plan for it. That feels so, I feel confidence and peace in that. Am I tracking?
Totally. And I just think that so often when people learn their human design, they just feel such permission to be themselves, whether it's permission to build a business in a way that actually works for them or parent in a way that works for them. And I think, just to even bring more clarity to what you're sharing is that, you're a manifesting generator in the context of human design. And so like you just shared, it means that you are multi-passionate by nature. You are not meant to choose one thing and stick with it for life. You are meant to keep trying on things, letting go of things, reinventing yourself. I think I read in your book that you had 19 projects that you've begun, It's so funny because I didn't even remember your design then. And now oh God, that all makes so much sense, But as you can imagine, so many people might make themselves wrong for that. They're like, I'm doing too many things and I've got to choose just one. And I would, venture to say that choosing just one is probably a very dissatisfying thing for you. Because having a very kind of varied, rich, satisfying career where you do many things is probably far more aligned for you. Whereas for somebody else, choosing just one thing might be the perfect thing.
I'm gonna have my kids do this because I'm so interested. I have kids who are so different from me, and one because I was just thinking about the opposite of me. What would be the opposite of somebody who's, man, they get into a position, a job, and they're just good year after year after year, which I can't conceive of at all. And yet I have one son like that. Man, he's probably one of the most at peace people I know.
That's
and yet, yeah, good.
Well, and there could be so much nuance. So I can't group one type entirely into that. But generators, which is they're similar to your type, but the difference is that they kind of really enjoy the mastery of diving deep into one thing. So generators might often find satisfaction in kind of one position for a long time. It will depend on other parts of their design. And then also there's another type that I am called projectors. And they're really here to master a system. and so that often can be a really nice place for them to be for a while. Like, I've been doing human design for 9 years, not really bored of it, love talking about it, teaching about it, sharing about it, like don't really like want to keep things fresh in different ways, but I don't really feel the need to kind of keep reinventing my career.
Well, give us a snapshot of each one. I wrote them down. There's 5, or no, there's 6. There's
5. Okay.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Okay. Projector, manifesting generator, which is me, reflector, generator, and manifester. And you know what? I am going to do her justice here. I asked Renee Marino, I said, tell me, kind of what you've, really gotten out of this. And she said she's a generator, and it's given her, again, so much comfort in again, some of these propensities. We'll let you talk about it, but it's given her so much comfort. But she's a generator, which is interesting. I would have thought, because we resonate, I thought, maybe she's probably the same thing as I am, and she's not. So explain each one, just however you want to go through those. Just give a quick snapshot.
Okay. So, and just so you all know, our type is such an important piece of our design. Again, like Kevin said, you can look it up at humandesignblueprint.com, but it's also just the first piece. There's so much more underneath it. So just know that going into it. So like you said, we have generators, manifesting generators, projectors, manifestors, and reflectors. So I'm going to begin with generators and manifesting generators. I'm going to talk about them together and then apart. These types have distinctions, but there is a lot of similarity. So it makes sense that you resonate with Renee in that way. So generators and manifesting generators are both like the doers. They have so much energy and life force to kind of build and create and make things happen when they feel genuinely lit up and satisfied and excited by what they're doing. An ideal day for you is likely one where you wake up energized and excited. You use up your energy throughout the day in ways that feel deeply satisfying, whether it's biking or working or podcasting or being with your kids. And then you can drop it by delightfully spent. And you're like, I have used it all up and now I can sleep well and wake up excited again. If you haven't fully kind of like expended your energy, you might feel like a little bit restless at night and actually have a harder time sleeping. The difference here.
I want to comment on that real quick, because I don't know if we did our call, but I am 6 weeks as of yesterday past the biggest bike accident of my life. So I'm out of slings and stuff, but I've got 7 broken bones currently. So I'm on 6 weeks of being sedentary. Other than some walks here and there, I just have been, and I feel fairly discombobulated because of that, because I'm such an athletic. I mean, I go out every day, I do all my stuff, and my sleep is crap. So I'm experiencing the opposite of that because my normal life is just what you said. So it was just relevant context. So keep going.
Yeah, these are just like, these types are like the energy types. Like they've got to use it up, but the energy comes from doing things that really do excite them. So the difference here between the two is that manifesting generators like you are often quite multi-passionate. They often like to move their energy in between many things. They also are often very efficient. They can find the fastest way to make something happen and might kind of skip a lot of steps along the way. So it's nice to be surrounded by people that can handle those steps so you can kind of move fast and be in your flow. Mm-hmm. And then generators are really here to kind of go deep and be very masterful at what they do. If you're a generator who loves to do many things, I'll never tell you not to do it, but you might love having like a day where you go deep into this and then a day where you go deep into this.
Yeah.
I think the last piece I would share about both of those types is neither type is designed to initiate. They are both really kind of meant to let life come to them and just wait for something to kind of show up and spark their gut before they go after it. And I think human design is actually a really perfect example for you, where like you were not out looking for human design, being like, what's the next system? I would like, it just showed up in your world and some part of it just felt right. And then and now we're here. And so your life is kind of meant to be in response, kind of, and allowing your gut to guide you.
Okay. That one initially, Erin, bothered me because I think of myself as I'm pretty decisive and I just make a decision. Let's just go. And so I think of myself as somebody who initiates. Here's where it got me though. The most relevant example that came to mind right away was woodwork stuff. So that's kind of a side hobby of mine. We built our home and all the kids have these crazy, I call them functional art, like beds that I made out of the aspen trees on our property. And it's kind of an art outlet for me. But here's the thing. If you give me I want you to tie this in for me, because this is what came to mind when I read that part. If you give me a perfect blueprint, in essence, guideline for like how to make a perfect set of shelves, and make it absolutely perfect or something. I'm out. What I love to do is kind of like the MacGyver thing, walk out and figure, okay, we need a new bed for a kid. Where's it going to go? It's going to go there. So it's got to fit there. And I'm going to go out and go, what do I have? What do I already have cut? Is there a dead piece of wood down somewhere? And I'm just going to make it do. I love that. Just kind of making it up in response to the space, in response to what I have, in response to the weather. Am I going to work out there and just kind of do it in there? I never conceived of that.
Yeah.
Nothing ever touched on that. I had no concept of why that is.
Yeah. And the idea is that it's often not until a thing shows up that you're going to like know what to do or whether you actually want to do it. And so this is not about you being passive and sitting back and doing nothing.
Yeah.
It's just about really allowing your gut to guide you where you're like, you know what, I want to build a bed, or you know what, like, I didn't think I would start a podcast, but like all these things are happening and my gut is just giving me a really strong feeling about it. So I'm just going to go do it. You know, so it's very much kind of being gut driven and not mind driven, like not doing what you should do, but what your body is actually pulling you towards.
I just never saw that. And I look back at my life. If I look, like you talked about the 19, Kevin started 19 businesses. I've always been a little bit almost embarrassed about that. Like, what am I doing? And most of those, did I ever sit down and go, okay, this is what I want to do. Exactly. I'm going to go figure out how to make it happen. Most of it, I should probably be honest, maybe all of it was just responsive to what's happening. And I just, okay, let's go.
Right.
And nothing's pulled it out. So that's why we're here. Okay. Keep going.
You're perfectly aligned with your design. Okay. So we've got 3 other types.
Okay.
Got projectors. Projectors are here to be leaders, guides, advisors, teachers, not here to do all the doing. So often as projectors, our energy can really ebb and flow throughout the day. So it's really healthy to kind of build in moments of pause and rest. Projectors often are really sensitive to and wise about people. They often find themselves in positions like teachers, coaches, managers, leaders, guides, things like that. I will say as a projector myself, I think that I spent a lot of my life trying to be a doer. And I was like, just derived all my work from my ability to do. Mm-hmm. And I think human design really taught me that I had more gifts, that I actually wasn't a great doer. And so I think that it has been really helpful to kind of build a business in partnership with people that have more stamina than me, and to really be able to kind of lean into my gifts. And one thing that's really key for us as projectors is that we are also not designed to initiate things. We are meant to wait to be invited in. Have somebody be like, hey, Erin, you would be amazing at this. Will you do this with me? And so that also has really changed. And when I shared that story of discovering human design, it came from somebody being like, Erin, I think you'd be amazing at this. Like, do you want to study with me and build a business with me? And when I look back on my life, all my opportunities have emerged that way. And now I know that invitations are my thing. Now I just look out for them.
Interesting.
Makes sense?
Yeah, I got a question, but I'm going to wait till you go through these. Keep going.
Okay. Then we've got manifestors. And manifestors are very kind of disruptive, innovative forces. You might even feel a bit of this energy yourself. They're really good at getting things off the ground, but not necessarily at doing all the not necessarily gifted at doing all the doing to keep an idea alive. It's often kind of just beginning it and getting it started.
That's where my question was. I'm still going to wait though. You keep going.
Manifestor energy, they can like work in these amazing bursts where they might have like such amazing, powerful, inspired energy for a couple hours, days, or weeks, and then have to kind of pull back and reset and be in their own energy. What often is most important for manifestors is freedom. To feel like they are free to do what they want when they want. They are not here to be told what to do. And they are here to initiate and wait for urges to just bubble up within them and just to pursue them.
Yeah.
They don't need any kind of thing to show up and respond to. The final type is a reflector. It's the rarest type. These people are deeply sensitive to their physical environment. So it's so important to kind of spend time in homes, cities, communities, and offices that really feel good. They're incredibly fluid. They will have days where they feel like generators, like projectors, like manifesting generators. So their job is just to honor whatever feels like them that day, knowing that they're here to express themselves in a variety of ways. And the last piece I would share for them is that they just see and sense and feel things that most people miss. Reflectors just have such a unique and invaluable perspective. So in an ideal world, they're going to be in environments where that perspective is really invited in and given up.
Okay. I mean, first off, as you read, again, I know my story better than anybody else's. So, the generator, the manifesting generator, so you read that stuff and it resonates so much. Again, I'm blown away that it came out of where I was born, when, what date and whatnot, in such an amazing depth and breadth that these other not to diss them, and I hate to compare, but these others did by so many questions and going through that, and that makes sense. And for this, it just doesn't make sense. I'm going to leave that there because so what? It's just useful. I mean, what you talked about there with the manifester, again, and I have all these analogies for myself that I've never had. I've never understood. I've never had, anything speak to. Like, I love a blank sheet of paper. I love an idea. I love again, an idea concept, and let's just go with it. Give me a blank sheet of paper. Don't confine me. Don't give me any input for a while. Just let me go in a hole, do my thing, come out. And I love a framework. Okay, here's a framework. Here's how it could happen. And let's just, and I'm ready to just launch. Let's just launch now. Of course, everybody's going, oh, dude, guys, you have a skeleton. You can't go out in public with that thing. It's got to actually have like tendons and muscles and skin and whatever. And that's not me. At all. And so again, looking at that, and when I have tried to do that as an entrepreneur, I'm just pulling the trigger and we're running out with a skeleton. It's kind of cool skeleton, but it's just not enough. Totally. And for me to look at this and honor that, which I've come to a little bit, it's taken me so long, but that's why I'm saying I want my kids to know this, to go, oh my gosh, if I have a manifesting generator, I can tell that kid, okay, here's where you're going to just kill it. And you're not going to waste time or feel guilty or hurt relationships, all these things. If you'll just know that this is again, it doesn't have to own you, but this is your predisposition. This is where you're going to shine. And if you can manage that well and align with other people, you're going to rock it.
I'm obviously so biased, but it does feel like one of the biggest gifts you can give children. Because I think so often in life, what I'm seeing with people is that often their kids will express their design so purely. Like, I sit with clients who's like 5-year-old kids or 4-year-olds are just like, they're just living it so full out. And then often as they get older, they kind of get conditioned of like, oh, maybe I should not be doing all the things, or maybe I should be doing this instead. And then they kind of like move away from their design. And then later in life, they kind of come back to it. So when you're able to kind of give your kids permission to be there from day one, it is the most permission giving thing. And just to share a quick anecdote, I sat with a generator client a few years ago, and his daughter was a manifesting generator like you. And we were sitting in session, and he was like, Erin, I'm really struggling. My daughter is just like, she's just not choosing a sport. He's like, she's playing lacrosse, she's playing softball, she's playing like, volleyball, like she's running cross country. He's like, I just want her to choose one thing and become great at it. And I was like, I so hear your desire. And she is like doing everything by her design. I was like, she's meant to try so many things, and you're just frustrated because she's not like you, and not because she's doing anything wrong. And it was just so amazing to witness their relationship transform, because, what he was challenged by was that he had a daughter who was different than him. Not that she was doing anything incorrect for her.
Okay, so let's take this into, I'm curious about the workplace, just as an analogy. And obviously that's an acute place, a tangible place for everybody, because you'd hear that and go, oh my gosh, she's going to have like 500 jobs. I'm thinking maybe she's going to find a job that facilitates change and innovation and whatnot. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So let's talk about manifesting generators, because I think it's a great example. Like the multi-passionate nature that you have, it doesn't mean that you have to run 19 companies at once. I'm assuming you did not start those all at once.
No.
But it's more that like your career is meant to include multiple parts of you and feel very varied. And if you're sticking with the same thing for too long, you might feel quite bored. And so often my manifesting generator clients are the ones that actually are doing multiple things. They're like, okay, I'm a lawyer. I'm also opening a dance studio. I'm thinking about becoming a coach. And then there are people that like are able to get that varied, excited energy met in one job. I remember sitting with a manifesting generator who was a Navy SEAL, and he was just like, Erin, every day is so different. So he had one job, but like it was so varied and kept him so excited. And so it's more that like you are designed to keep reinventing yourself. And so when you feel that itch and urge to do it, just giving yourself permission to step into that.
Well, I'm thinking about it here, so he's got one job, but he does so many different things. That's what I think about here. I constantly sit down in front of somebody new. It's a new topic. It's a new story. It's a new vibe. And I guess that's what keeps me in on it. Can you go through, not to pigeonhole things, but if you just from a corporate structure, like, gosh, if you found, I'm going to make a guess here based on myself, that as a manifesting generator, you wouldn't be surprised that I say, oh my gosh, I am the most horrible manager ever. I'm terrible at managing people. Yeah. So you're okay.
Yes. And some manifesting generators will be lit up by it. But if it does not feel like the most satisfying part of your work, it's probably not the piece for you.
Okay. Well, tell me, and again, I'm hesitant to say this because I don't want people to hear like, gosh, if I'm this, I can't do X.
Yeah.
But if you look at that from a corporate structure, you talked about teams and whatnot to say, gosh, if you're, well, I'll put it like for you, for your team, if you say, gosh, I need a manager, I need an administrator, I need a salesperson. Are you by proxy going to be kind of looking for certain types?
I don't, and I do work with, many teams that are wanting to hire based on human design. It's kind of a tricky thing, I think, because my belief with human design is that human design doesn't limit what we can do. It just lets us know how we can do that thing best. And so I believe any type can be the CEO or manager of a company, but they're going to do it differently. And if it doesn't light you up, it's definitely not for you. And so, yes, you can look for people based on their type, but what I would actually recommend is that once you choose to hire somebody, then look at their design and understand how to best use them and have that conversation. And so a lot of my work with teams is that it's really helping them understand each other so that maybe kind of get in the right role, not whether or not they should hire them in the first place. But let me give you an example. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was just thinking about it. That's fair, because for me, as I just talked about, we're talking about I'm talking about different topics. Every show is a different topic, a different focus. Maybe it's been in the past, it's been self-help. Now that we're the What Drives You, podcast, I'm excited about expanding that and talking to people. They may not have some specific self-help message or whatever, but they're a driven person. They're an influential person. Let's talk about what drives you. I'm excited. Different topics, different stories, as opposed to, let's take a Dave Ramsey that everybody knows, and every day he's talking about money.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, shoot me. So different types, but we can both be podcasters, but it's going to be very different. And somebody else is going to be, like you talked about, the reflector. And I'm thinking, man, maybe is that, and I, again, I don't want to label people here, but maybe that's the person who's doing the meditation podcast.
And it's also like maybe somebody, a reflector is a podcast who's like even doing readings for other people on an episode because they're so good at like feeling into people and mirroring back from people, so there's so many possibilities. But in the context of business, and I do think what you said, your point is such an important one. This is not about you using human design to be like, can I actually do this job? It's more like, oh, how can I do this job in a way that works for me?
Yeah. Okay.
I would say let's go with entrepreneurship, okay? Because I want to just say every type could be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So if we're going to say manifesting generator, let's start with you. When running a business, you are probably not going to be somebody who like wants to keep your offerings the same for a long time. You're going to want to keep shaking it up. And you're also probably somebody that's like going to like see where things are going, have that skeleton and just be like, let's go. Like I can see the fastest way to make it happen. Yeah. And I would say within the realm of entrepreneurship, it is probably so important for you, like I said, to be surrounded by people that like handle all the details in a way that kind of allows you to move fast and be in this like multifaceted kind of like flow that is not always linear.
Yes. Yeah. Like back to that framework, I'm going to build that. But if I don't have a finisher, somebody, well, and we did a series, it's been a year or so ago with Patrick Lencioni's Working Genius. And he talks about that. And tenacity was last. I think it was last on my list, tenacity. Cause I'm just, man, before we nail it down and put the last dot on the last pair, I'm gone. And I've lost interest, and it's, well, I would say it's not my skill. I mean, I am not good at the details. I just have no thought for that. So,
well, I love that because you've got another gift in your design, which is so much around pulling back and just like taking the higher view, and so being able to kind of be in that is so much more natural than kind of being in the details all the time.
Okay.
So then we've got, does that make sense?
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay, so we've got generators, which are similar in some ways. Like, generators are very here to be lit up by what they're doing. They're very natural doers. So if they're running a business, that's very natural for them. I would just make sure that they are kind of taking constant inventory of like what lights them up and excites them. And they're able to kind of focus their energy on those things and kind of delegating the rest. But again, like for both generators and manifesting generators in the role of entrepreneur, the more lit up you are, the more lit up your team is. But it's so important to kind of make sure that most of what you're doing is giving you that deep satisfaction. Projectors like me, we are often really good, I would say visionaries and leaders, but not great doers all the time. And so I think whenever I run a business, I've always had a generator or manifesting generator business partner. And so in the context of our business, to use me as an example, my job in the business is to be really good at human design. It's to master the system and to kind of teach and share and talk about it, which is where my gifts are as a projector. And I don't handle the rest. I'm not great at operations. I'm not great at strategy. Like I don't do finance. Like it's like not in my realm at all. And I think in a previous version of myself, I'd be like, I'm going to be great at all the things as an entrepreneur. I'm like, I'm not great at all of them. I'm really good at human design and I love talking about it. And the more kind of create space in the business to do that, the better.
Interesting. Yeah, it is. And again, I like the fact that you're saying anybody can be an entrepreneur, but you're going to do it differently. You're going to have a role that's different. It's interesting. In our business right now, we're doing so much innovation. Of course, I'm on fire. We're creating stuff. And then we had a whole rash of audio problems. We're going back and go, holy smoke. I don't want to mess with that.
Yeah.
And we're going, that's actually the product, Kevin. That's what we get paid for, is that son of a gun. I want to go in. So I want to come into your business, go, okay, you kill it there. Let's go figure out different opportunities. We can both be self-employed, but it is a big call out again, especially from an entrepreneurial standpoint of you can be an entrepreneur, you can own the business, you can lead whatever, but if you're going to do it well, and this is part of the reason why I've had so many businesses, trying to do it all myself or trying to control things and not delegating with the right people. And actually I'm grateful that I think you used the word partner a second ago in regards to your business, because I'm at that evolution in my own business that I've got to do more than actually delegate. I have to actually partner with people for this to happen. Again, this is stuff that I'm just coming to after so long. So I'm hoping people can hear this and not wait till they're 52 to figure it out. So, okay, keep going.
It's the perfect time for you because you're also like, according to your design, entering like the best phase ever of your life. So then manifestors, when it comes to entrepreneurship, this is the type that I talked about where they kind of really work in spurts and they also need to feel free. And so I would say if you're a manifestor building a business, do your very, very best to build a business that allows freedom, where you are not required to micromanage people all day, every day. You are not required to be constantly available. Where I've seen manifestors thrive is when they're able to really just let people know what needs to happen and trust that it will happen and not be the one managing people all day, every day. Yeah. Also, I have a lot of manifestor entrepreneur clients who they will come in, be super on fire for 3 months and then disappear. And their team just keeps things going while they're gone. And then they kind of come back on fire. And that is so perfect for them. And then finally, what I would say for manifestor entrepreneurs is, like I shared before, they're really good at getting new ideas off the ground, but they're not here to kind of do all the doing to keep that idea alive. And so ideally, they will kind of get a thing off the ground, hand it off to their team, go hermit and be in their own energy, wait for the next idea to bubble up, and they kind of bring that thing to life.
Yeah, executing. That's not where I'm good at. And I want to bring it even into, for a second, just deviate because it's on my mind from a relational standpoint. Yeah. So candidly, so marriage counseling, as my wife and I go through marriage, which we've done all of our marriage. And so often I'll get called out, by her, but then I also will a therapist. So, Kevin, we just asked a question and you just went way up here and talked about all these concepts. I see you laughing. All these concepts has nothing to do with what are you going to actually do? Is there a step here? I have no idea. This is where I live. And so there's some, okay. So I'm tracking.
Well, I'm just laughing looking at your design because one of your gifts is that you have way more ideas than you'll ever know what to do with. Yeah. And then the other one is that one of the biggest areas of challenge and learning in your design is that you can get very easily distracted and get pulled in a bajillion different directions, And so there's just a lesson for you of being I can see all the ideas and all the inspirations, but I don't need to follow them all right now.
Let me ask about that though. And again, not that this is, I'm using myself as an example, everyone, because that's all I can do. I can't, you're going to have to do this and use yourself. But in that, I have been labeled ADHD. Yeah. Maybe I am, but it's just how I've always been. And I've struggled with that label and finally said, okay, so I don't care, whatever. Either way, this is how I am. I have not been able to change it for 52 years. I probably am not. I got to figure out how to manage it. So I have to, literally my house at home, is overrun outside by a chipmunk. So they're not squirrels, but chipmunk. So it literally is. I see stuff here. I had a cow nose its face up to my window there and distraction, but I love it. I kind of go from this thing to that thing and it's just how I do, but I have to figure out how to manage it because at some point the project does have to be done. So I've always talked about managing my dysfunctions. Yeah. That's how I put it, which is a negative way to look at it, or it's ADHD. How do you speak to some of the pathologies that we would tend to label ourselves where you maybe not discount the pathology, but also it's also just your design that you have to figure out.
Well, let me tell you a little bit more about this part of your design, and I'll just be curious if this is what it feels like. because obviously, like, I can't make any, people talk a lot about it, kind of ADHD connected to this, but I cannot make any connection there. It's totally anecdotal, and I obviously could never make a diagnosis like that. But I want to share this with you because I do think you're right. We can often make ourselves wrong for things that are actually very natural to us. I don't know if this is what's happening here. But what your human design would say about this piece that I just mentioned is that you are somebody who's very easily inspired, but also very easily scattered. And your mind can get pulled in a bajillion different directions. Like somebody's excited about a thing and you get excited by that and then excited by that. And it's obviously an amazing gift because you're so easily excitable and inspired. The shadow expression is that you kind of end the day being like, I went so many different directions and it was so fun, but I have no idea what I did.
Fair.
And so the wisdom, the lesson for you is that as inspired as you are by all the things, not all ideas are yours to pursue. And just having a lot of discernment about like, what are the right ideas to pursue? And like, how can I really pour my energy into those? And what I often recommend to these people, I don't know if this has worked for you, is just using a very, very simple to-do list each day. Like, what are like the 2 to 3 things I could do today that would give me the most satisfaction? Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, you will move away from them and get distracted by the chipmunks and the cows, but like, they will just serve as anchors. So you can end the day and you're like, I move those things forward and I feel satisfied.
That's just, you nailed it. I am king of the to-do list. I have, It's every day I sit down, I write it out. I may do it twice. And here's one for the family. Here's one for work. Yeah. I write it and it goes away. I never see it again. But the next day it's on my mind. I do that. And now the best thing that I have going for me as far as work is that my assistant sends me in a app that we use. She sends me, here's what's on deck for today. This is the red alarm. If you don't do it, everybody dies. It's got to be done. It should be done. And this is the whatever. And she sends it to me. And if it doesn't get done, it comes back the next day. And if I don't respond to the red alarm, you text me. And we put all these systems in place to manage the reality.
That's great.
Okay.
To me, it feels like you're living in alignment with that because again, it's not like these are the endless things I have to do ever, but it's like, these are like the simplest things that must happen. And again, then you can just be in your flow and be distracted throughout the day and be inspired, but you can have the things that like keep bringing you back. Because often when these people start the day and it's totally wide open and there's no clarity around the priorities, like it can just feel very overwhelming.
And I assume, Erin, that as you talked about early on with human design, you can keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And I haven't done that. So I took, a free test. I took your paid for, and I've been reading that. Now we're here talking. That's as far as I've gone, because as you talk about this, I think, gosh, I'm sure as you're testifying to that I could take this further and understanding this further. I'm thinking about my team and thinking about how can we do this and maximize our work together and my family and my wife. And
it's endless. But more information is not better. It's just like the right information at the right time. So we've got reflector entrepreneurs. I don't want to forget about them. So what I would just say about reflectors is that, reflectors really amplify the energy that they're around. And so I would say if you like are wanting to become an entrepreneur as a reflector, one of the best things you can do is just spend time with a lot of entrepreneurs and just be in that energy. And know that like because you amplify the energy you're around, it's really good to kind of choose collaborators and partners that really feel excited to work around because they will give you energy. And I would say reflectors often are really good at like group work, coming in, kind of facilitating groups and being in positions like that. And, being in a position as an entrepreneur where they get to kind of share their perspective on things, but again, are not responsible for all the doing.
Okay. So again, you said there are going to be the people who are going to be more prone to highly sensitive to their environment, to their surroundings. So it's even more important that they look at that and realize their energy, like you say, their energy is tied to that. So be honest with it.
Totally. And like choose clients that feel good, choose offices that feel good, work from coffee shops that feel good, just be incredibly high maintenance about your space in all ways.
Okay. I do want to dig a little deeper real quick. As you talk about that, I talk about this and being able to, that I pulled this out. I guess this came out of, actually, I don't know where I got it, but it talks about type, strategy, authority, profile, definition, channels, centers, not self, and signature.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and I'm reading the headlines of those and going, okay, this is, I assume, how you're taking us deeper into this for me to understand how to better utilize it. So I don't even know the list that I just gave. Yeah. What is that definite? What have I just...
your ass. It's funny because those are all the things that are explored in your blueprint, but I just like don't try to teach you it. So it's just like all that stuff is just integrated in. So it basically is different elements of our design. So the type, which we've been talking about, is the piece of our design that will speak to how we can use our energy in the most productive way. Our strategy is how we can create the most aligned opportunities. So for you, it's about letting things come to you rather than chasing after them.
Huh.
Our authority is about how we make decisions. Are you somebody that can trust your gut feeling in the moment? Do you need to sleep on things or do you need to talk things out? I don't know the specific order you gave me, but definition is the piece that speaks to how we can best interact with and process things with other people. Like, are you super independent? Are you super collaborative? The open centers is where we are the most challenged in our lives, but also where we have the most to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Our channels are our innate gifts. What are the things that we can always rely on? What are the things that make us us? And then our not self and signature, and I'll just use you as an example because it's simple, is that they're basically very simple signposts that reveal when we're on or off track. So for you, when you're on track in your design/life is when you feel a deep sense of satisfaction. You're like, I love the way that I'm using my energy. I feel satisfied in my marriage and with my kids and with the podcast. And when you're off track, just frustration can start to bubble up. It's just kind of this like resentment and dissatisfaction with how you're using your energy. Whereas for me, when I'm off track, I start to feel bitter.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. I'm sitting here just thinking in my own head about how this relates to my life. Even the thing you said about, because I tend to think that, I am impatient. And so let's just make a decision. Well, back to that. You said part of the manifesting generator is being efficient. I feel like my entire life is spent waiting behind people or trying to get around people, whether that's whether that's driving or in the grocery store or in a business decision. I'm just ready to go. But because you just said that, I realize that if I'm really going to make a wise decision, if it's something that's of importance, I need to sleep on it.
Did you read that? Do you remember reading that in your blueprint?
Yeah, I do. It's just that it's something that I've been more employing in the past 6 months, just kind of organically. And so again, to read it in there is holy crap.
Well, I wanted to bring it up to you because I think that it's funny, like, you're somebody who's here to really make things happen fast and you like want to use your energy. And so it makes sense. There's a lot of eagerness to use it right now. But according to your design, this is not true for all manifesting generators. You're really meant to sleep on things and give yourself a beat before you say yes. Once you decide to say yes and the clarity is there, you can be like an absolute powerhouse in making that thing happen. But for you, there's benefit to just giving yourself a pause before you go for it.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you then, Erin, so as you're working with people in depth on this, if you were working on me, I'm still going to, not still, but I'm also going to wonder, I did have life programming. So if there's some other, an identical twin, let's just go with that. I'm sure you've had this question. So an identical twin, they were born in Columbus, Ohio, on December 6th, 1970, at whatever time I was born.
PMs.
Okay. And they were, which I guess even twins can't be born at the exact same time, but close enough. And then of course, one of us goes off and lives in middle-class America. And one is, I'm going to exaggerate it, sold off to slavery in a third world country or whatnot. And you have different experiences, traumas, whatnot. I feel like it's got to relate to some of this, but I'll let you tell me your perspective on that.
Yeah, a couple pieces. I think that like we're all conditioned by the world around us. And actually, human design is interesting and that it often reveals where we'll be conditioned the most, like where we'll be the most impacted by other people. So yeah, those people can kind of have entirely different experiences and feel different level of connection to their design. But I guess what I would say is even if they have the exact same design, even if say they were born in the same place, the way they express their design can be so different. Because human design is not going to say like, you're this kind of personality. It's going to be like, you're multi-passionate. So they might be multi-passionate about different things. But yes, I think with totally different circumstances, your journey towards living your design can be very, very different. But I will say across so many circumstances, people will resonate with the potential that's there. But some people might feel like they're living it and doing it already like you. Or some people might feel quite disconnected.
Okay. So my book, What Drives You, how I've defined that is when you know what you want.
Yeah.
And why, you really know why, not the first answer why, but the fifth level of, okay, this is really the why. And if you're in agreement with that, you're in alignment and you're going to, go after things, be driven towards things, have success and have fulfillment along with that.
Yeah.
and where you're not, where in the areas of your life where you're not in line, which that's going to be, of course, part two that we're going to talk about in our next discussion is where you're driven in these areas and where you're not in alignment, where you have, you don't know exactly where you're going, or you don't know exactly what's driving you. There's something hidden maybe that's driving you, you're out of alignment. I preface that to say, because I feel like that's a lot of what I assume. If I'm working with you, you're saying, okay, where are things working? Where are they not? And where am I not being authentic? What word would you use? Authentic to my design. And I'm bucking up against that, kicking the goads, as they would say.
Yeah. And to me, that's why I love human design is I always say it's equal parts relieving and confronting. There could be a thing that's incredibly relieving because you're like, oh my God, like I get to just be me and it's okay to have all these ideas and pursue all these things. But for me, discovering my human design was incredibly confronting because I wasn't living my design at all. I was trying so hard to be a generator or a manifester, and I was really not even entertaining the possibility of being a projector. And learning my design, like slowly with time, I just allowed it into my life more and more in a way that I saw my life transform. So people are going to have different starting points. I sit with clients in their 70s, and they're like, I'm living my design so purely, but I can look back on my whole life, and I just wish you were here 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think that it reveals the potential that is there and how to find alignment and flow in every part of our lives. But again, our starting point will be so different, which is why, like you said, for kids, it's amazing to introduce it early because you're basically giving them permission to be who they are from day one.
In my book, Erin, I talk about, and a lot of people talk about her, Bronnie Ware. She was like a hospice nurse.
Yeah.
And she wrote a book on, the regrets of the dying. So a lot of people source her. And I don't know I can't remember. It's top 5. I don't know if it's number 1 or what. It was, I regret not being my true self. That's what I feel like here is where, talking about kids, but now as people are going along and I talk about the math doesn't work, I'm doing this in my job, let's say, and I'm killing it. And yet over here, relationally, I'm just destitute, or I'm doing well over there, but my health and wellness is off. To look at this and go, where am I not being true to myself like that? I need to get healthy and well, so I've got to run. Well, you may look at their profile here and say, that's here's why you hate running, or here's why you hate the gym, or where you hate that class, or you hate the whatever. It doesn't line up. So okay.
Yeah, exactly. And not to be an excuse, but more be like, oh, this is why this thing has been really hard and why it's not working. And I referenced this very briefly at the beginning, but the blueprint that you talked about, it is this kind of book all about your design, but people will often tell me, the client, that they'll like go back when things aren't working in their life. They're like experiencing a lot of resistance or challenge or just like some block. They'll go back and read about their design and then they're like, oh, I get why that's not working. Like, I'm trying to push against this piece of my design.
Yeah.
So I think it just keeps returning us to ourselves over and over again. And I think the magic of human design is that it just reminds us that we are all wired so differently. If I'm just beginning as an entrepreneur and I model my business after manifesting generator entrepreneur, I'm probably going to struggle, because I don't have that energy to sustain. Or if I try to be a manifestor and start pitching all these people, also not going to do great. And so I think it just lets us know, like, what is your roadmap? Like, how are you meant to do things? And I think so much magic emerges when we really kind of allow ourselves to tap into that.
I got a couple 10,000 foot view questions for you.
Okay.
When you, like on your webs or probably on Instagram, I think I pulled off, again, big names, Brene Brown and Jennifer Aniston and Taylor Swift and Beyonce, all these. Is there I'm going to assume there is, but there's a cultural popularity, like, oh yeah, these people tend to be that, and they're the ones in the limelight. And so there's a cultural, by proxy, a cultural pressure that, oh, this style is better. And kind of like you talking about being an entrepreneur, I got to be a doer and realize that's not me. Is there a cultural predisposition to certain types that tends to push us that way when it's inauthentic to us?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, in so many ways, I would say one big piece is that generators and manifesting generators make up the majority of the population. And so most people are doers. They have all this amazing, powerful, creative energy like you to just like keep up and make things happen when they're lit up by them. So most of us that are not that are trying to be that. So we are just like so desperately trying to keep up and often burning ourselves out in the process. So there's a lot of pressure to be that. I would say the other pressure that I often see is to be a manifester. And that basically, I remember once I was giving a talk and I was like, how many do you think you're a manifester? And like 70% of their people raise their hand, and manifestors are 9% of the population.
Oh, wow.
But manifestors are the ones that are just here to initiate and make things happen without any kind of confirmation from the outside world. So I think there's a lot of pressure to kind of initiate and force, but so often when a lot of us try to do that, it actually doesn't work out that well. And so then we kind of discover a strategy that works better. So I think, I see a lot of pressure with both of those.
I think when this series publishes, Erin, I think we will have just finished a series on burnout. And you have mentioned that a couple of times, and you said it just a second ago, burnout, because one of my questions too was, what are some of the highlight, not to overuse manifestations of being out of alignment with your human design?
Oh man, great question. So many. I think a lot of it is burnout. It's just feeling like really exhausted. It's feeling really disconnected from our gifts. It's often being in relationships that don't feel good. It's like having communication issues in those relationships. And it's often like also feeling disappointed in people because we just don't understand who they are. But I think kind of burnout and exhaustion and relationship challenges are often what people come to me with. I think those are often kind of the first places that people struggle.
Again, I don't know how to. I'm gonna be pondering this for a long time. Probably forever. I am such a fan of all the other profiles out there, and I'm not. I mean, the Enneagram has been one recently. I have a lot of. I really appreciate it. There is something that I don't know what it is yet about this one, Erin, that I feel more equipped with the others. I've taken them in the past, and sometimes, and I've seen other people, and you kind of get it. It's really cool. It's really interesting, but don't know what to do with it. I can't tell you why. Maybe you can tell me, but I feel somewhat with some of how this has been defined, or how it has helped me see myself and understand and validate, maybe, that I feel from it equipping. Again, not an equipping to go, okay, guys, now I know exactly who I am. That's it. We're in the deal, cut and dried structure. But to go, okay, this is me. And if I'm going to be me, I need to utilize this, but I'm going to need help over here. And I almost feel like it's a more of a call out to honor other people, and even my need for other people, which needing other people is not a high point of myself.
Well, I think it's such a good point, because it does reveal how we are wired to be supported, what kind of support we need. But I think there's like a specificity and a practical nature of the human design that really like set it apart, where it just is so highly specific and so highly actionable in a way that's really useful. And like you said, the point is not to discover your human design and like, okay, I'm going to nail it. Like, I'm going to go live this tomorrow. Like, I'm 9 years into this journey, and like, I live in ways away from my human design every day. And I'm like, oh, I see what's going on. Let me come back. And so like, it just continues to serve as an anchor where I like see why things aren't working, and I kind of keep coming back to myself. And so I think, I hope someday we won't need human design, because we'll know ourselves so well that we don't even need it. But I think at this stage, it is just such an amazing way to know ourselves in a deeper way that allows us to just, again, show up to life in a way that really works for us, even if it's different than the people around us.
Well, we've talked about kids, and I think about that, and we do not get taught this stuff. We do not get taught the importance even of knowing ourselves. I mean, even in my own, upbringing, which was wonderful, but I learned to understand other people, understand the world, understand how to deal with it. And I just did not have a thought for understanding me. And so as I bump up against things, as I try to perform and people please, and some of those aspects, which again, I'm eager to get deeper into it, because even from a therapy standpoint, to go, okay, I have always been, not always, later in life especially, been really burdened by my dramatic averseness to conflict.
Yeah.
Like that, is that something that you would say, yeah, you can see that within the human design concept?
Your avoidance of conflict?
Yeah.
Well, I think in some ways, yes. I think that like you also just said the performing piece. I'm curious because a big lesson for you is around like not proving yourself and knowing that you've got nothing to prove.
Yeah.
So that's a big, big life lesson for you. But you are, I would say, a deeply emotional person in your design. Like you're really here to, feel a lot, but it's also really good to not address things or try to resolve challenging issues in the moment. It's really good to just take a little
Yeah.
space and let things settle before you come back. Have you explored that or noticed
Well,
that?
again, it comes into that not nature versus nurture type aspect, but some of the programming that here we are. And as you talk about it, and I've been learning as of late, honestly, past years about my emotional sensitivities and even empathic aspects. And yet I grew up with very little, I guess exposure. I didn't even want to I just didn't had no place for it. I was performing. I'm a pro cyclist. I don't care about emotions. Get to the finish line, kill yourself, do whatever. And, from a guy's standpoint to do that. And so I didn't have a language of emotions and really just ignored those. So here I'm ignoring it. Yes, I have a lot of feelings and I don't understand them. So I'm just going to shut them down. And I've been there. So to read this and to go, gosh, that's a big part of me. It's like, gosh, no wonder I've had some of these issues and why it's on one hand exciting and also kind of daunting to look at it now. Cause I'm having to read Brene Brown's book to figure out what emotions are, what are these things and how to name them.
Totally.
It's exciting, but I realize now how on a misalignment is that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do, just to go back to your point about the kids, I do think, human design is useful in so many places in our lives, but with parenting, it's so powerful. And I would say you're such an amazing example because, with 7 biological kids, I know you have more than that, but like, I imagine your kids are really different. And I think human design is one of many tools, but an amazing tool to be like, oh, how does this kid need to be communicated to? How am I impacted by this kid's energy? How am I impacting this person? Like it allows you to understand each other in a whole new way. And, I'm a new mom and my daughter's design is so different than mine. Yeah. And she's 11 months old. So, I'm still watching it come to life, but I'm also just like, I have no expectation that she'll be like me. And I just love kind of walking into our relationship already knowing that. And just being like, let me just give her a lot of space to do something totally different. She's a manifesting generator like you. And it's like so foreign to me. And I'm like, I just can't wait to watch that emerge because there's no pressure to be similar at all.
Gosh, yeah. I'm going to just honor that here we are. I can start now. I can give the gift to my kids now. But I do look back and go, especially when they were little, to think, man, if I'd had this, to think, okay, they all have chores to do. They all have to clean the room. Okay. But this one, it's not going to, this style of getting them to do is not going to work, but this could. And how can we again do that? And that's what I want to do with myself. Well, from here we go deeper with it. I thank you, Erin. It's intriguing. Yeah, talk about useful. I'm enamored with it. That's why we're here. We're going to keep talking about it. I'm going to have Renee come on and talk about her experience with this, but I think it's something that will keep the dialogue going. And I want to learn even more about this because I want to utilize this stuff. Again, I feel inspired and equipped by it. So just thank you for being here. Thanks for doing what you do. It's going to be a fun conversation to continue. Thank you, Erin.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, folks, everybody, thank you for being here. And again, you can find this at humandesignblueprint.com. That's where you can go. You can get a free do you call it a profile, Erin, or a test? How do you refer to it?
Let's get your profile. That's great.
Profile. Okay. So you can do that there. And then if you want more, you can pay for one. That's what I did. Even again, months before, I don't think I told this story, months before I got contacted by whoever I did saying, okay, so we got this, Erin Claire Jones, she has this thing. I'm like, I just bought the thing. So here we are. So if you guys appreciate what you heard here, please let us know. Leave a rating on Spotify, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcast. And it'd be great if you reference this. Hey, I heard Kevin talk to Erin. It was great. Tell us what you learned. Helps other people know what to expect on here. You can watch this on YouTube and you'll see a bunch of clips on it at all of our social media, Kevin Miller, CO. And if you want to learn how to master your own inner drive, get my book, What Drives You, on Amazon. And until next time, stay driven.
Yeah.